It's football helmets. How complicated could they possibly be?
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Riley Puddin Peters, future CTE patient, and I'm here today to talk to you about helmet safety in football. Let's start with the history. The helmet's a relatively simple piece of equipment, and it goes all the way back to 1896 to George Barclay, who is credited for a thing called the head harness. This head harness eventually goes on to mold the form of the early leather helmets. There's also another credit to a U.S. Naval Academy midshipman, Joseph Reeves, who is credited with molding some, military-like helmets into the use for football. But it wasn't until the 1940s when leather helmets were required by the NFL, one of the first leagues to require the piece of equipment at all. And it wasn't until 1949, after World War II, when the NFL adopted plastic helmets. Plastics and hard plastics becoming one of the innovations of the era, a craze that swept every industry. Football went right along and adopted them. And even with the plastic helmet being invented, it wasn't even until the mid-1950s when someone added the single bar face mask that is kind of legendary for the era, for that look. And then in the 60s and 70s, you have Riddell coming out, and they start innovating and improving, kind of getting to what we imagine today. But the football helmet has evolved so much because player safety is the focus of the game in these days. And especially with the rise of awareness of concussions in football, helmet safety has become a very, very important point that every parent, average watcher, coach, player, anyone involved in or around the sport of football is worried about. So the innovations and the evolutions and the technological advantages that are coming out for helmets is crazy in comparison to those days. Today, football helmets are highly engineered and designed with considerations for protection, for proper fit, obviously comfort, and in the highest leagues, communication systems. There's three main pieces to a helmet. When you think about it, you have the outside shell, you have the inside padding and protection, and then you have the face mask. Like I said, the face mask was introduced in the 1950s and really hasn't changed much in form besides look, and maybe, the addition of visors in later football. But that's, more of a look than it is a function. The helmet shell is one thing that only in more recent time has become kind of the focus of innovation. For the longest time, we had the hard plastic shells, and that's just what it was. The idea was that they wouldn't break in most cases when you hit them, so that meant they were safe. And then you would just have this hard shell and you would stuff it full of, cushy material, and hey, 2 thumbs up, job's done. We're moving on. But when you think about that in theory, really all that was happening for a lot of it was just it was multiplying the force being given on an average hit, and that is not good. Today they're focusing on making them softer. They want to create flexible sections in the helmet that deflect, that bend like a car bumper or anything like that, and they absorb the energy and then boom, pop back out, returning to their original look. That's kind of the goal for a lot of helmet developers. And they're also developing things like universal padding systems for the outside, something that you can just simply and easily put around the helmet, whether it go on with a simple glue at most or just slip on. These are very important because they've been found to help limit injuries in practices, especially. It's not really ever used in games, but you almost anytime you see a practice from college or the NFL, you see the players wearing those, especially linemen, wide receivers, anybody that gets hit regularly. The leading of that is the Guardian Cap NXT. It's kind of one of the industry leaders for that. Now, the thing that's gotten the most focus when it comes to helmet safety is inside the helmet. Like I said, for the longest time, you had a hard shell, let's just stuff it full of the best stuff, and that's 2 thumbs up, job's done. But What they come to find out is the original techniques of putting thin layers of foam stacked on top of each other, maybe air compressed things. They found that that's just not doing the job when it comes to actually keeping people safe. Today, football helmets have way more than just those inside. And a lot of these materials have been engineered for safety, for having those energy absorbing properties, things that help re-divert force when you're taking a hit, looking to really help people not have all of the hit of every hit that you take in a football game go straight into your brain. So a lot of these things are, non-Newtonian materials, which is just a fancy term for they move, they form, they have some liquid properties while still holding a solid showing. They hold, you can pick it up. But when you hit it or when you try to move it, they kind of take these more liquid properties. There's also stuff like liquid crystal, which is, kind of a non-Newtonian material, and a lot more. And these are kind of the focus when it comes to inside the helmet. We could really get some very, very safe helmets when it comes to just the mundane hits, which historically have been the ones to do the most damage. When you look at CTE, a lot of times it's not one incidence that really causes it. It's, years and years and years of small hits over and over and over. And new helmet builds are really kind of the key to keeping that as minimal as possible. Just the everyday plays, just linemen hitting each other, simple, running backs getting tackled, all that kind of stuff, trying to limit the impact on those. Also inside the helmets, like I said in the previous, they're working on radio communication technology. In the NFL primarily, I know it's starting to, try to make its way into college and stuff, but in the NFL, you see those green stickers on the offense and defensive captains' helmets. Traditionally, it's the quarterback and the middle linebacker, respectively. And with that communication device, they can, have a direct link into their coaches, everything in a football game. You can make things go so much faster. And instead of having to decipher signals like we're in World War II, you can just get, someone telling it straight to you in your ear. And then you don't have to, worry about your signs getting stolen. Now, with all that being said, there is one helmet that, since its introduction into the market, has kind of been heralded as the crown jewel of concussion safety helmets. And that's the Vicus 01. It was released in 2017 to a lot of praise. It's got a lot of very interesting properties to it. It has that flexibility in the outer shell. It's designed to kind of work like a car bumper with nodules on the inside and then like an outside flexible frame, and then that are designed to work like, described in ways like a lot of animal shells and natures, just interlocked plates, creating the most safest force resistant surface. This helmet, since it's been released, has definitely been kind of the focus of people that are talking about, the innovation of football equipment and how it's getting safer and creating safer environments. There's a study from the University of Washington Harborview Injury Prevention and Research Center. It was done on 21 high school teams in the 2018-2019 football season. The coaches that they surveyed from those 21 schools, 90 to 100% of their varsity football players used the Vicus 01 helmet in that season, 2018 or 2019 season. And in that season, a total of 59 concussions were reported collectively from all 21 schools. That represents 7.3% of the players surveyed. To get the baseline for information, same kind of study was done in 2016, 2017, and 2017, 2018. So the two previous seasons. They just essentially didn't impact what helmets they used, but instead just asked the coaches how many concussions were reported. In the 2016-2017 season, the first one, 102 concussions were reported, representing 11.9% of players. And then in the 17-18 season, 90 concussions were reported, representing 10.6% of the players. So there is a marked drop, going from 11.9, 10.6 to 7.3 in just 1 year is a very, it's a pretty good mark, but it's not perfect. There's still 59 concussions, and there's still an element of danger that is presented in football that I don't think any piece of equipment will be able to 100% mitigate. But that drop is very significant for only 1 year, for only one piece of equipment being changed. It's kind of impressive. But the thing is, there's still danger. There were 149 concussions suffered over 271 games in the 2022 season in the NFL. That was an 18% jump from 2021 and 14% higher than the 3-year average between 2018 and 2020. And a lot of that was just kind of seemed to come from special teams plays. Special teams is statistically the most dangerous play in football. It's one of those things where it's always been a part of football, so it's hard to think about letting some of them go. But there are definitely ways to mitigate the danger, and the NFL is always talking about ways of changing the kickoff. I mean, since I personally have been watching in the early 2000s, cognizantly watching in the early 2000s, there's been a slurry of changes to the kickoffs. The 25-yard touchback instead of just 20. The rules where different things can be allowed as a touchback, a full touchback, getting the fair catches, all that kind of stuff. Rule changes that have definitely slowly but surely helped, but special teams is definitely always going to be the arguing point for people about what is something that needs to be taken out of football or something like that. Because if you look at the numbers, and if your worry is player safety, with the numbers that are present, special teams are markedly more dangerous than just regular plays on both sides of the ball. So there's always something there. But with that being said, there's also plenty of new technology coming. And like I said, always new rule changes being discussed and implicated and tried. We have the now UFL, the former XFL and USFL. The XFL had a very good kickoff system, I think. Me and Dr. Preston Rowe definitely, I think, argued about it. But I think once it got into action, you saw it was not as bad as either of us thought it was going to be. It was actually pretty entertaining. So check out our XFL episodes from last year. Go see some of that, because we definitely talked about it in every episode. And the NFL is now debating about implementing something similar to that, where you just have two teams line up about 10 yards away from each other. The ball's kicked off. Once the ball goes to a certain point, the 10 men that are lined up 10 yards away from each other can then, attempt to achieve a block or, a block shed. And then, the returner can return back, kicker can try to stop too. Be interesting to see how it plays out in the NFL if that happens. Plenty to be left on the table to discuss, always. With that being said, I gotta clean up and get out of here for this one, y'all. Thank you for coming and listening to me talk about helmets and hits to the head. Peace.